when we were first married, and we needed furniture and realized we could not buy the good stuff, so we had to buy the old stuff that needed to be refurbished. And we learned together. She taught me and influenced me to do that. When Heather needed new clothes and we didn't have much money to buy them, Colleen made them. But when they were made, they were better than you could buy in a store. And there was stuff that Heather was proud to wear. Whether it was quilting a blanket, whether it was quilting a blanket, whether it's making clothes or making our curtains, drapes, cushions, she could do it. She even made me a leisure suit when it was in style. Sort of compared the leisure suit to the pacer. So glad it came and went quickly. Marcy, my sister, has the same giftedness that Colleen had when it comes to sewing. I'd heard in some of my father's DNA as a carpenter, but it needed cultivation. It was Colleen who gently pushed me to develop as a carpenter. She would dream up a project, and I have to admit, I groaned when she came up with half of them. But I would make it, and she would finish it. I didn't have the gift to finish it. When I would finish something, it looked like it needed to be done over again. This last project I made in our house, in our utility room, I had to paint the new cabinet, and so I got it painted, and finally got it hung. It was up there, and Colleen looks at it. She says, "That's a primer coat on there." I thought I had painted it with a finish coat. I said, "No wonder why it looked rough." I hate painting. Colleen taught me the Depression era saying, and you may have heard this, it fit Colleen. It's like she almost could have written this. Use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. And she helped me see the value of not throwing out my scrapbook, but how to use them in other projects. It became a game after a while. I would make something and say, "Colleen, guess what? I made this with all of this scrap." And it was fun to do. Choosing colors was a test for our marriage. If there was anything that could have ended it, that would have been it. She had the gift to know what colors worked. It drove me crazy sometimes with how long it took to make the decision. I just don't understand. Still don't. I can do black and white. It's really easy. Black and white, that's it. But when she decided, it was perfect. One of the last things we did was to choose a color for our front door. She told me to go to the store because she couldn't go anymore. And so I went to Home Depot and went to Sherwin-Williams, and I got, a bazillion paint chips. And she said, "These 4 colors." How was I to know that there are a bazillion colors in these colors? So I bring it back. And she patiently went through it and came down to the colors that I'm going to need. So in a few weeks, the door will get painted. She was a strategic thinker. She could think through things as steps to solve a problem in ways I never could. We moved I think it's about 15 times over the years, and she knew how to pack. As years went by, I finally got to the point, I just wanted to hire a mover, but no, she didn't want that. She wanted to pack everything. And our last move, a couple moves, we did hire a mover, but not one dish ever broke when she packed it. Not one dish. Now, some movers like losing things of ours, but that's another story. There's one story from our marriage which I think really typifies the differences between us and how we approach problems. Some of you have heard this story, but I think it'd be appropriate to share it again. It's called the Christmas tree story. And it's a perfect example of our differences. So when we were young, we couldn't afford much. We couldn't even afford a Christmas tree. And so finally the time came when we had a little bit more money, and Colleen said, "Well, let's get a real Christmas tree." So I said, okay. I wasn't excited about it. We had an artificial one. Just take it out, unfold it, and put this stuff on it, and it's fine. But you wanted a real tree, so I said, okay. And the problem was that we're going to have to go to a tree farm, choose the tree, cut it down, and put it on top of my car. Notice how I said that, my car. It was our car, but it was my car. you ever worked with a pine tree, the only way to ever get the sap off is with plastic caps. And it was going to scratch my car, and it was going to be a mess. Why can't Christmas be neat? So the three of us go, me, Colleen, and Heather. Three strong-willed people who each had their own opinion of what the Christmas tree should be like. Me, who doesn't know a thing about Christmas trees, and the other two. And so finally we just, I want something perfectly symmetrical. What in nature is perfectly symmetrical? But Colleen had her opinion, but I think we went with Colleen's opinion. So we take that tree, put it on top of the car, and drive home. In those days, we heated our house with a wood stove. And so Colleen thought we should not bring it in the house yet because it'll just dry out and the leaves will fall off. That made sense. And so we let it lie against it was laying against our garage. Time came to put it up, bring it in the house, had a little odor to it. Next day, come down the steps, Sunday, come down the steps, and there's this odor that just hit us. You see, some cat had claimed its territory. It was a tree. So, I probably wasn't in the best mood at that point. Just take the thing and burn it. But Colleen, as a strategic thinker, knew what to do. She said, take it to the car wash. How do you take a tree to the car wash in New England in December? And so, I take the tree out of the house, put it on top of my car. I have no idea what words I said that day. And I drove to a self-serve car wash. I had one objective in life at this time. It was my only objective, and that was to remain inconspicuous. I didn't want anybody to see me, what I was doing. See, because it was New England, and people didn't wash their cars in the middle of the winter, to take the salt off. And so there I am, pulling up to the cart bay. I didn't drive into the cart bay. It was a multi-bay thing. I drive up before it. People can see me. I get out of the car, take the tree off of the car, and drag it into the car. At least inside, nobody can see it. Put it down over by the drain. Now I have to go over to that box on the wall where it has 6,000 different choices. From power wash to carriage wash to all sorts of ridiculous things. And at that time, I think it cost a quarter, so you know how long ago this was. And all I knew was the tree only cost me $15, and I wasn't going to put much more money into it. So I put my quarter, whatever it was, into the machine and chose power wash. So I went over to the tree, turned it, and began to power wash all the needles. Miracle of miracles, the needles didn't come off. So I take the tree home, and I bring it into the house, and Colleen says, great job. No, she didn't say that. She said, it's dripping. I didn't care. But she was right. The odor was gone. Colleen knew what she was doing, and a lot of times I didn't. She was a great mother. She was a natural at it. The Lord gave her this incredible wisdom in parenting Heather. Our goal was that each year, like one of the things, is that we would teach Heather an additional responsibility to prepare her when she would leave home. And we did that every year. Heather and Colleen were best friends. Every night, when Colleen took her bath, Colleen sat on the edge of the tub and they would talk. Heather was not, she was the type of child that shared everything with Colleen. She was not the kind that held things back. And they did this day after day, month after month, year after year. That's what they did. They had an incredible bond. And so when the Lord took Heather. It was just devastating for Colleen and me. It affected Colleen in a different way. Colleen's first response when she heard the news about Heather was that, and where Heather died is probably less than a quarter mile, was that she knew that Heather was in the presence of the Lord, because the greatest privilege that we ever had as parents was to lead Heather to the Lord. And so Colleen knew that she was instantly with the Lord when that happened. We have a permanent hole in our hearts with the loss of her. And when she was born, I wrote a letter, and in this letter, her letter that I wrote, was from Psalm 139. And I knew that God had given Heather to us for a certain number of days. I just didn't know how long those days would be. What parent ever thinks that it's just going to be for a short time? But it was. And I looked at that letter recently, and I saw something that I hadn't seen in 25 years. And what I had written is that God was going to use Heather's life to cause us to grow deeper in our relationship with the Lord. I don't think I knew what I was talking about when I wrote that, but I do now. What God has been asking me for 25 years is, will I trust Him even though I don't understand why He took Heather? Will you trust me even though your soul feels devastated? Will you trust me that I know what I'm doing, that I've been God? And my response continues to be about Heather, and it is now for Colleen. I do trust you, Lord. You love us, and you are committed to conforming me to the image of your Son, and that all things do work together for good. It took me a long time to agree with that. But I do. I'm in a different place than I was when Heather died. This is a different experience. I'm grieving over different things. But there's some things that I learned about the Lord that I believe now more solidly than I ever did before. And that is that all things do work together for the good. It's His good, not necessarily what I consider good, but what His purposes are. And I know that He loves me deeply. You know, in Crew, you mention my name anywhere in the United States, and people know who I am, not even my last name. Now, for some, it maybe brings trembling, I'm not sure, but if you were to mention Colleen's name, it's not the same. See, Colleen never sought recognition. Matter of fact, she would be a little embarrassed about today. She never wanted attention called to her. But what we're doing today is honoring what God has done. This is not about just a person. This is about what God has done. God used Colleen to help shape my life in a way that I don't believe would have happened without her. I could not have had the ministry that I've had all these years without her. When she waited for the diagnosis for ALS, she said she just wanted to know, not because she was anxious. She was anxious to know, but so she would know how to plan her life. I thought that was incredible. Just so she can plan her life. So she focused on trying to finish up the genealogy work she'd been doing on her family for decades. She was a whiz at research. She went through her possessions, from jewelry to family quilts and other special items that had been in her family, to distribute them to our family, and she made sure that that was done. It was hard watching her give away things. I so struggled with that. Because it reinforced the reality that her time was short and that God was going to take her. Only I didn't know how short it would be. She knew where she was going and what to do with the Lord. In June, she had a feeding tube put in. could no longer eat. And that was not easy, especially when I was helping and I pulled on the tube, which you don't want to do. She wasn't able to talk, but she was able to get the word ouch. She grew weaker each month and then it seemed weaker each day. Colleen never, ever complained in the entire 11 months that she suffered with ALS. Not one complaint. We did 4 feedings a day, and it would be during those times that we would talk, or rather, it ended up where I was talking. And I asked her, I said, is that okay? And she said, she would go like this. She wanted me to talk. There's a way that we would have conversation. And the way that she would communicate with me, she had this electronic pad called a boogie board. And it was like the old little pad she had that was this black, a cardboard thing, and you lift the cellophane up and write on it. And now they have an electronic version of that now. And so she would write notes. During one conversation, I shared with her how I was struggling, and she said, telling Colleen could say, she said, God has some things for you to learn during my illness. I wasn't sure I wanted to hear that, but I did. She was right. And there have been a ton of things I've learned, and things I will continue to learn moving forward. We held hands more during this time than I can ever remember. When I held her, I told her I loved her. We found things about ALS, believe it or not, that we were able to laugh at. And I enjoyed those times with her. Every Sunday at 7 o'clock, for decades, there was a phone call from her brother Vic. Nothing on heaven and earth could move that, except that Vic had to change it. And so, Vic called every Sunday and talked with Colleen. And when Colleen was no longer able to talk, she would email him the things they would talk about. And then Vic would respond to those things and tell her things when he called. Then when she could no longer email, I was the one who talked to Vic. And Colleen sat there. Colleen was able to help me understand. I was able to pass things on to Colleen. We had a speakerphone and we talked that way. Interesting, this last Sunday, Vic called me at 7. I think maybe we're starting a new tradition. Some months ago, Colleen told me she didn't want to be burdened. It was just so hard for her. She didn't want to be burdened. She didn't want to put people out. I told her she was not a burden to me. It was hard. Being a caregiver is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But it was a privilege to take care of her. An absolute privilege. Sometimes people don't say things to each other, or they think it might hurt the other person. As the days grew harder, I shared with Colleen, and I thought about this before I did, but I thought I had to, and I told her how tired and overwhelmed I was. And she knew. At one point, I was sitting on the floor, she was sitting on the couch. I had my head in her lap, and I just cried. I was just gutted. But that was a precious moment that I wouldn't trade for anything. Several days before she died, she wrote me a note and said, I wish I could push a button to be with Jesus. She was ready to meet the Savior. 25 years ago, Colleen and I both grieved when we lost Heather. Now I grieve alone with the loss of the most important person in my life. And I know that I'm not alone because I've got some of those incredible friends in the world, but there is an aloneness that's there that nothing can replace. But I know Colleen is rejoicing in the presence of the Lord. She's perfectly healed. After 25 years of silence, we talked about that. 25 years of silence, just waiting to hear something from Heather. She's with Heather and something you don't know, 2 other children, miscarriages. Heather always talked about seeing her siblings in heaven. And now Colleen gets to be with all 3 of them. We sang earlier, "It is well with my soul." I can truthfully say well with my soul. I may not feel it, but I will get there.
Thank you, Ellis. God has used you to impact my life and thousands and thousands of others. Indirectly, millions of others. Thank you. We're going to read from Lamentations 3 in your program. I have been deprived of peace. I have forgotten what prosperity is. So I say, my splendor is gone, and all that I had hoped from the Lord. I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. I well remember them, and my soul is downcast within me. Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say to myself, the Lord is my portion. Therefore I will wait for him. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in him, the one who seeks him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. It is good for a man to bear the yoke while he was young. Let him sit alone in silence, for the Lord has laid it on him. Let him bury his face in the dust. There may yet be hope. Let him offer his cheek to one who would strike him, and let him be filled with disgrace. But no one is cast off by the Lord forever. Though he brings grief, he will show compassion. So great is his unfailing love. For he does not willingly bring affliction and grief to him.
Steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to end. They are new every morning, new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness, O Lord. Great is thy faithfulness. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to end. They are new every morning, new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness, O Lord. Great is thy faithfulness.
think Ellis gets the Husband of the Century award for taking a Christmas tree to a car wash. Show of hands of how many other men would put a Christmas tree on their car. I think I might have put it on my car roof and taken it to the car wash, but it would unfortunately have blown off somewhere else. My relationship intersected Ellis and Colleen when they moved to Springfield, Massachusetts, near where Christy and I were also moved to live back in the early 80s. And our early relationship, and a lot of times things we still do together, are centered around house projects. We had this amazing ability to do things together. And Colleen was always appreciative of what I brought to the equation as it related to these house projects. I brought things like activation and speed, two things that Ellis didn't possess as a natural part of life. Ellis brought meticulous planning and measurements and making sure it was precise. You don't have to measure 5 times to make one cut. So Colleen would often watch us in these working environments, doing projects together, and just kind of roll her eyes and go back in the house and think, this is just crazy. She was always appreciative of what we did, and so one of the things that became a common phrase for Ellis and I in this equation was, depending on what we were building, I would keep pushing Ellis forward. We were building a shed in his backyard one time, and I would just kept pushing him forward. Let's go, let's get it done. We measured it, let's cut it, let's nail it, let's go. And I would always say to him, we're not building a precision clock. We're building a shed. Let's just get it done. But Colleen not only was appreciative of things that I did to help Ellis, but she was also sacrificial whenever Ellis did things to help me. Like the time we were building an entertainment center cabinet for our house, and we were building it in their garage because this was going to be a surprise for Christy. And so for weeks, this project sat in her garage, keeping mess around where it needed to be. And I often describe it as Ellis and I built this cabinet. A more accurate way to say this is Ellis built this cabinet and I kind of helped watch him, because as he would say, this time we are building a precision clock. They have to stay together. One of the things some of you might know is Ellis is not particularly fond of heights. I think that's why he's quit growing at a certain point. He doesn't like being up high. So whenever we were doing projects, around the house or things that needed something, he was doing projects around his house that needed something done at a height, that's when I would get called to climb the ladder to be at the peak of the eave, to paint the top part of the eave, or to climb up on the roof to get leaves off up in New England or whatever. That's what I would kind of come along and do. And Colleen would always have something for me to eat afterwards. She was always attentive to things like that, to be caring about what was going on. You've heard a lot of things about Colleen. She was precise. She was stoic. She was meticulous. She liked to work with her hands, and you would go to her house and you would see the work of her artistry in paintings and crafts and different things that these projects that she made. And while she was very good at helping push Ellis to do projects as he described, there was one thing that she would never let Ellis do. And the one time she did, you just heard him tell about it, he used primer as the finish coat. She would never let him paint because he hated it, but I think more than the fact that he hated it, he was terrible at it. But Colleen, you could go in their house, and Colleen was so meticulous at cutting the lines in the corners. She was so precise that she wanted to do it herself. Ellis and Colleen had a relationship that meshed well together, in spite of the stories that Ellis has shared about some of the things where they didn't mesh so well. Their lives really didn't mesh well together. They loved doing life together, talking together. They would often take long Sunday drives together. They would go antiquing together. They would work on projects together. Together was one of the things that was really true about Ellis and Colleen. That you could just be with them and they were in this together. And together, they loved their daughter. They loved Heather, and much of life while Heather was here was centered around her. Ellis described in great detail just what a great job Colleen did at being the consummate mother devoted to Heather. They loved doing life together, and Colleen's love for Heather naturally extended to her friends who they talked about earlier, about she was just involved in caring for them. Colleen was a private person, lived a simple and quiet life. She was Ellis's confidant and life support. We see it every day in their lives. And in addition to Ellis and Heather, Colleen loved Jesus. You heard her story about how she came to faith, how she became convinced that the penalty of sin for her had been paid, that was no longer an issue, and that sin no longer had power in her daily life, that she could trust God to do whatever He needed to do to allow her to move through the daily parts of life that were hard. And Ellis described to you how we still live in a world that is full of pain and suffering, and bad things happen to great people. And it was particularly devastating when Heather died, but yet Colleen held fast to the love for Jesus that she had and knew to be true. And I watched that year after year be lived out. The reality of knowing Jesus gave her and gives us confidence that this physical life on earth is not the end.